Okay, with us is actress and comedian Janeane Garofalo.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. So you really are for disarming Iraq.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you want to think we can do it peacefully.
I think actually, as I mentioned earlier, if you guys have access to the New York Times or online, there's an excellent op-ed piece by Nicholas Kristof, which likens this situation to Eisenhower's dealings with Nasser in Egypt. And Nicholas Kristof is talking about how containment actually does work and can work and saves lives of the troops and it saves lives of the Iraqi civilians, and in our case it's going to, I think, be very helpful in ratcheting down extremist retaliatory strikes.
And that is about Nasser, and Nasser and Ike went against. He actually played the role of the French a little bit and said, I don't think I'm going to get involved because the Suez Canal is going to be cut and all this stuff. But
no, he didn't say I don't think I'm going to get involved.
But he stayed out of a resolution and he aggravated Europe. But just talking about Nasser, if Israel didn't kick Nasser's butt, what would have happened to Nasser? He would have continued to flourish and go.
Well, that's not necessarily true, and also he deals with Israel in here and how Israel didn't behave actually completely above board, and they actually framed him for terrorist strikes when they sent Israeli soldiers into Egypt to commit some terrorism and then blame Nasser for
that.
it.
Of course, a unique historical perspective, and we're glad that you pointed that out. But now let's talk about what's going on today.
Sure.
And the problem is, for a lot of people, we have 18 resolutions, 18th introduced yesterday, on the books, asking Saddam Hussein to go ahead, belly up to the bar, let's do what you agreed to. He hasn't done it. The French are saying, let's give him more time.
I would say actually, check please. That's what they need to say. That's what's missing is check please, and then I think he'll hop too. But I would actually say to you that some of the reasons that he may not be as compliant as he should be, but also he's been more compliant than our news has led us to believe. I have satellite dish TV and international news, and Hans Blix.
Are you watching Al Jazeera?
I like to watch Al Jazeera. No, I'm kidding. Hans Blix has actually been much more forthcoming about how cooperative in some areas they have been. That's not really been the way the news is framed here, but be that as it may. I think the Clinton administration made it clear, and this administration makes it clear, that compliance is irrelevant. Madeleine Albright was unfortunately very vocal about compliance is irrelevant and sanctions don't get lifted until he's gone. Okay, now why are you going to disarm in the face of that? I think he is very well aware also that the hawks in this administration they don't care at all whether he complies to arms inspections. In fact, this administration is adamant that they don't want more inspections. And also there's a myth that he kicked the inspectors out, UNSCOM inspectors out, who were very successful, by the way. He kicked them out for spying. They were indeed spying, and then they went back in, and then Butler pulled them out.
So you are Saddam must love you, and I'm sure he must. Don't
even try and do that inflammatory. I'm not a Saddam Hussein apologist.
How do you feel that Saddam Hussein held up the protest last weekend and said, "Isn't that great news?"
No, I don't think he said, "Isn't that great news?" I think, I think it is ridiculous for you to try and manipulate the
manipulate what? All you've done is talk the whole time. I haven't had a chance to say
what. What are you talking? You really think that? Why are you trying to frame that democracy in action, 8 million people on February 15th who disagree with you, just because they disagree with you, it doesn't mean that Saddam's sitting there going, this is great. He still has hundreds of thousands of troops breathing down his neck. No, he didn't. What did you hear him say?
Do you think that 150,000 troops, if they weren't breathing down his neck, there'd be inspectors in there?
Yeah, I do think there'd be inspectors in there. Just in the way that UNSCOM was successful, UNOVIC can be successful.
He said no for 2.5 years.
He said no for 2.5 years after UNSCOM was proved to be spying. Then Rickler pulled them out.
You couldn't get him to declare his weapons. They had to use other means.
UNSCOM was extremely successful. Extremely successful.
If it wasn't for defectors, they would have had nothing. We're still missing 100 tons of anthrax and VX gas. Where is it?
Okay, that's what you say. There is no proof or evidence that we're missing 100,000 tons of VX gas.
It's never been declared, and even Hans Blix himself says that Arab country kept better records than any Arab country that he's ever seen, let alone Iraq itself.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
You disagree with Hans Blix?
Yeah. First of all, Hans Blix, like I said, has been much more positive about Iraqi
Did you read Time Magazine this week?
No, I didn't.
Well,
Did you read Foreign Affairs Magazine this week?
I read it out loud to Steve.
This week?
But what is your point? You don't think it's a good idea for Saddam Hussein to be out of power?
Of course course I think it's a good idea.
How
for
do you
Saddam
expect
Hussein
him to
be out of
leave power?
I think that if we work with the international community and the Arab League and increased weapons inspections, we can accomplish disarmament.
If you were lost, just a second. If you were lost, would you want a scientist to find your child, or would you want a actual inspector or a policeman or a detective to find your child? You're asking scientists to find weapons. They're supposed to detect weapons, but not understand what they're building in tunnels that don't
who
exist.
are very good at their job.
But they can't detect things. They're there to analyze things like what happened in South
I think
Africa.
if the United States and Britain would help them more, it also would be more successful. Inspectors, that's what they do. They're very well trained to find weapons.
Right.
That's what they
So
do.
you just
and they
distrust
do it very
this
well.
government inherently. You distrust Colin Powell when he sat there and said, here is intercepts of Iraqis trying to cover up nerve gas. You distrust
the British dossier was bogus, and you know it.
What was bogus about it?
It was a student's grad paper that was cut and pasted so cavalierly that they even left the grammatical errors.
Well, I think it would be safe to say Brian and Janeane do not agree on this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
We do not agree.
Are there any circumstances where you would think war with Iraq is appropriate?
I guess those circumstances have not revealed themselves yet. I think that this will be one of the worst chapters in American history if it is perceived by the Arab world that a U.S.-led invasion that was not justified, not in self-defense, goes forward. Plus the fact international law matters. The UN is not irrelevant. You know, it is unfair.
Do you like Thomas Friedman?
I do like Thomas Friedman.
Can I just quote you Thomas Friedman, January 22nd? He says, what liberals fail to realize about war with Iraq is that it's not some distraction from the war in Al-Qaeda. That is a bogus argument. Just because oil is at stake does not mean it's illegitimate. Though disarmament is legitimate, the real prize is regime change. Faltering Arab states are churning out these terrorists, and that's the only way to stop.
Well, if we want to get Arab states that are churning out terrorists, there's certainly a whole lot of places we should be. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan.
Unless we could do the whole Arab region, don't start it?
First of all, there's no links between... wait a minute. There's no links between Iraq and Al-Qaeda that have been established.
He just said it's bogus. A guy that you like, that right-wing guy, Thomas Friedman.
First of all, the liberals thing, just because you're in the peace movement, you're a liberal automatically. The liberal bashing is... You just said the word.
I said the liberal.
He said the liberals, what the liberals fail to realize. Now, second of all, Thomas Friedman has ratcheted way down. He has said very recently... Yes, he has. He said right plan, wrong guys about the Bush administration. And Iraq, you break it, you bought it. Talking about how we need more information about how much this is going to cost and what the repercussions of the occupation
You don't think those people deserve a shot at freedom?
Of course I do. And stop framing it that way. I absolutely believe
what other way does it frame it? These people are going to be liberated. Why don't they have a shot at being liberated? Why don't those people have a shot at liberation?
And first of all, negotiating with Turkey sure isn't going to accomplish that. Turkey with one of the worst human rights records in the world, by the way.
Compared to who? You think they have a worse human rights record than Iraq?
They're number 4.
You do the rankings?
Turkey is number 4. I don't have... Do you think that Foreign Affairs magazine and The Economist are just these bogus
Let me just, 60 Minutes, that right-wing organization, 60 Minutes, here it is. He says, this is Mr. Sharistani.
Why did you just say 60 Minutes?
Because you've accused this network of being a mouthpiece for the White House, so I don't want you to use this network.
Because it is.
How do you figure that?
Anybody that
did Dick Cheney leave talking points on my voicemail this morning?
Probably.
Yeah.
And I would say, and
I'm willing to play that back with.
everybody knows that Roger Ailes is in touch with the White House.
And what has Geraldo Rivera been in the past? And what has Alan Combs been in the past? And you ever watch any of these shows? And who is actually an independent? Is it Bill O'Reilly?
I would say that Fox News is one of the most conservative networks.
Then what does this say about the country when it made us number 1?
I would say it was in cable news.
Is cable news not that nice? Is that not good?
Yes,
is that beneath
it's guys like you that are Fox. You're combative. You are
no,
combative.
because I'm not going to let you sit in there get off because you're a celebrity.
What? Why am I? What the hell does me being a celebrity have to do with anything?
Well, that's the only reason.
What does my occupation have to do?
That's the only reason you're here.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you book somebody you have more respect for in the anti-war movement?
No, I just think it's time for you to be challenged.
Thank you for joining Fox and Friends. We're going to continue this debate. They're actually going to go into the break and continue this into the green room. But right now we're going to go to Fox News Live with John Scott.
John, take it away. I think I'm amped and ready to go.
Thanks, Janeane.